So I'm going to explain the meaning of the word static in Java. I'll start by making a simple demonstration class. Okay, so in this class the class is called counter, and it's got a count variable which is initialized to 0. The class has got one method for the object, and that's add1. That will add 1 onto count and print it to the console. In the main method, I'm going to create a counter class and call add1 twice, and then I'm going to create a second counter class and call add1 twice. So what that does is it outputs 1 2 1 2 to the console. So the first counter outputs 1 and 2, and the second counter outputs 1 and 2. Now what static means is it means that it belongs to the class and not the object. So when we have a static variable or method, there's only one of them in the entire system. So if I just change this count to be a static variable, now there's only one of these and it belongs to the counter class. So when we make an object, there'll only ever be one count variable. So when we run this program again, we get 1 2 3 4 because the count variable is always just the one that belongs to the class. In fact, we should probably refer to it as counter.count because it's a class variable and not an object variable. Now we can do a similar thing to a method. If we change this to a public static method, similar to the main method, now there's only one of these methods in the system, and we don't even have to make any objects, but we should refer to the method relative to the class. Now we don't have any objects, so we're just going to call the static method, which is looking at the static variable. So again we get 1 2 3 4. If this variable count wasn't static, it would be impossible for the static method to see it because the variable would only exist if we have an object. Okay, so the thing to remember is that static methods and variables don't belong to the object, they belong to the class. An example where you might want to use them is here, where you have constant values. For example, you have some colors defined, my background color and my foreground color. I can refer to that from anywhere in the system by just prefixing it by the class name. So counter.myForegroundColor, and now I'm redefining it to blue, and my background color redefining that to blue. There's also a final keyword where we can say that it can't be redefined. So in this example, my background color cannot be redefined because it's final, so it's a constant value really. Another example is this static method here, convert miles to kilometers. We can call that from anywhere. If we were outside of this class, we'd have to prefix it with counter. But this method is converting the miles input to the kilometers output from the method. So it's multiplying miles by the static final variable kilometers per mile. So here we can call this method 10 miles is, and then that method kilometers. So you can see that that's the sort of method that we might want to share between many classes. So we can define it as a static method, or we can define the static constants or static variables that we want to see from different objects. But we shouldn't really use static variables or methods for objects to communicate with each other, because that would suggest that we've not structured our objects right. So that's what statics are. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer. So thanks for watching.